Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark TV. You guys know who I am. I'm Dr. Angela Butts-Chester, and you know what I like to do on my show. Say it with me. I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. Now, scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on a fire. And that's what we want to do today. We want to get you fired up about my guest. I'll be spending time today with Cindy Brashares, CK Brashares, and we'll be talking about her book, A Reflective Journey of a Loved One's Passing. So go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Hello, Cindy. Thank you so much for
Hi,
joining me here on Daily Spark TV.
I'm blessed to be here.
Absolutely. We are so glad that you are here and such an important topic to talk about. So I cannot wait to discuss more about your book. Now, before we get started, our tradition is that we give every guest an opportunity to remind our viewers or to tell some new folks who you are and what makes you you. We realize that some folks, this might be the first time that they're hearing about you and your book. With that being said, can you tell us just a little something about you? What makes you you?
Well, I'm married. I've been married for 54 years. I have five grandchildren, well, two children and five grandchildren, and I like to do a variety of things. I like puzzles, um, and of course, I like to write, as I've done the book, and I just enjoy life.
Oh, I love that answer. And I am a fellow puzzler as well. Word puzzles, as well as the puzzles that you put together, like on the dining room
Right,
table.
right.
I love that. It is such a fun way to not only challenge yourself, but to bring family together. I love that. Now, being an author, is that something that you've always wanted to do? Or did you find that this was just one way in which you were able to share your information with the world?
Actually, I've always been in the mind a writer, and I took some writing classes from Long Ridge Writing School, and then I've journaled since 1993. I've done a journal daily, and so it kind of and I think in writing terms. And when I'm out and about, I see through my eyes, and um, the story just kind of goes off. So I guess internally I am a writer.
I love that. And I find that so many times when you are a creative being, there is so much to inspire you and it comes to you quite naturally. Um, Even musicians that I have spoken with will say, I was out and about the other day. We went to the lake and this fish jumped up and it was so beautiful. The next thing I know, platinum record because
Right.
they wrote about that experience. So it is very true that I think when you are a creative type, and to me, being a writer, however you say that, I'm a writer, a novelist,
Yeah.
a creator of words, that you really and truly are inspired by those things around you. Now, speaking of inspiration, I'd like to always ask certain questions of my guests because you never know what the answer is going to be. And that's about the title of your book. Many times a title will come to the author first. Other times it may develop out of the writings and you have that aha moment of, yes, this is the title. Tell us the story about your determining what would be the title for this book.
Well, I had to think long and hard on it. I wanted to put it in the title that it was catchy, something people would remember, but yet would be reflective of my mom's journey and our journey, my siblings' journey in this process. And it just, the reflective, I thought, well, I've been thinking about it, and the journey, of course, and it was with my loved ones. So I thought it was a good title.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we are finding that the space for talking about self care, mental health, what it's like to be a caregiver of our aging parents, being a part of that sandwich generation, even. And it doesn't really matter where. I feel that it doesn't matter where you are in your own personal life, like what age you are. If you are caring for your parent, then there is something that you can learn from someone else who is doing it as well. And to just know that you're not in it alone and that there is someone who
Exactly.
understands what's going on. So thank you
Mm.
for doing that. Now, I usually ask, would you say that your book is appropriate for someone as young as high school? But I want to ask this question perhaps a little bit differently. Is your book appropriate for someone who may not be experiencing it firsthand? They may not be the caregiver of the parent, but they may be a friend of the caregiver. They may be a family member to that caregiver. Is it appropriate for that person to read this
I
book
feel
as
it
well?
is because it's
Mhm.
all about the basis. I feel the core part of our book, my book, is to honor each person's perspective of who they are and how they look at each other.
Yeah.
Because, each of us has an internal view of what we look like. And but it doesn't always match of what the people see of us. And I think that's a very good thing for older people still have this young view of themselves. They don't lose that. And also they still have control in their mind of their life and they don't have that as they age. It's a natural process, unfortunately. So yes, I think that would be beneficial for a lot of people to get this view because it isn't just in your loved ones, it could be a friend, it could be a uncle or an aunt, or
Yeah.
even, like I said, a friend that you might have to go through this. And that gives you better understanding and more empathy.
Oh, I love your answer there because I'm finding that, especially as we as the individual are starting to mature, we're finding that life is bringing these experiences into our various circles. Like it hasn't happened to me personally, but yet I know someone that is experiencing this. And
Hmm.
just being more understanding for them, if perhaps they don't have as much time as they used to, or they don't really want to talk about that, they want to talk about something else, right? And
Right.
you might be able to step in and just be that person that can feel this other thing that they need to do, and I'm sure your book addresses that. Now, speaking of that, many times I believe that an author will present their work in the way in which it should be consumed, meaning section one before two, chapter one before chapter two. But sometimes you're able to kind of read the book. I call it reader's choice. Open up the book and start anywhere. What is the best way to read your book? Or does that matter? Can you start anywhere or should you start with page one?
I feel in my book, yes, starting from page one, because it gives the first part, the first chapter gives this overview of why it was made, and starting the process of my mom's journey, and then the ones after, I couldn't say the word, um, uh, is the processes that happened. So you have to do it sequentially. Yeah.
And that completely makes sense because that's how the journey goes. This happens and then
Right.
that happens, so I can definitely understand the steps there. Now, for as far as how you should read it, is it something that you feel that someone should sit down and consume as much as they can in one reading? Meaning, if you have 5 hours to sit down and read the book, sit down and use those 5 hours and consume the entire book. Or would it be more digestible in bite sized pieces? Every day, read a little something, almost like a devotional, where you're going to read a,
Yeah.
a little bite-sized piece. Does that matter as well?
I don't think so. I think that you could do it in bite-sized pieces, like read the first chapter and then each chapter after that or parts of the chapter. Um, I guess it depends on how much of a person is you want to find out things. I particularly, if I start something and there's a question or a mystery about it, or I want to find out what the next comes next, I may go through the whole book. That's and so I think it's per person's perspective or how they look at the book, it'll probably make difference.
I like that answer. I think that I'm pretty much like you. It's like how much time do I have, right? And
Right,
I'm gonna read
right.
until I've run out of time. But not everyone is like that. So
Hmm.
if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying that if you need the bite-sized pieces, take the bite-sized pieces. But if time affords you, then read until you are contented for your own personality and do
Exactly.
accordingly. I like that. Now, one thing that I feel is that you are trying to speak openly and honestly in your book. And I think that most people appreciate that. Why did you feel that it was important to be open and honest about this journey?
Well, because of the subject, talking about death is not on the major um, person's conversation. And so I felt that it was important to be honest about it, and express my emotions, even though it may not have been comfortable for me to do so. So the person that is reading it may connect with it, may see something in themselves that will be helpful to them, because it is a tough time to go through. Um, eh, just with my sisters, I had five, there's five of us. So it was a good, amount of people to help out. But still, it was tough trying to schedule everything and coordinate everything to get so we could take care of our mother.
As you were speaking about the death portion of it, you're so right. So many times people do not want to talk about end of life. They don't want to talk about death from a very almost superstitious point of view, right? Don't talk about death. We're going to invite death into the house, and we don't want to do that. And I
Hmm.
can I can understand a little, but at the same time, it is a natural part of the life process. So we do need to talk about our end of life choices. Have you found that just in your personal experience that there has been avoidance of those conversations, or do you find that more and more people are starting to say, maybe we should talk about our end of life choices? Is it becoming easier, or is it just as hard, just in your personal experience?
I think they're trying to starting to ease up on that a little bit, but it's still a difficult situation and topic. Um, in not talking about it, you miss out on a lot of things, a closeness, a connection that you would otherwise not have with your loved one. Because a lot of loved ones who are going through that process are scared and feel like they shouldn't talk about it either. And then if you and really do want to talk about it, maybe it might be difficult at first, but when they do start talking, the floodgates kind of open up, and that makes and helps them feel relieved, feel better. And so I think that's a needed thing. So I don't know, maybe it is a starting um, trend going that way. I'm hoping to, and I hope my book will help that.
Absolutely. And I think that your book will, because I'm finding that the more we talk about those taboo things that are a part of the natural life process. I'm not talking
Hmm.
about things that that I think collectively we still say might be taboo,
Right.
but end of life is something that is going to happen. And if we have the time to be able to have that conversation, you said a very profound thing. The person who is in the various stages of transitions might be scared too, and they might want to have the conversation. They might not, but they might want to have the conversation too and be a willing participant in that part of the journey. I had an aunt who knew that she was going to pass away because she suffered from a particular illness, and because of that, in her alone time, she planned everything. When she finally passed, there was a whole binder full of these are the songs, these are the colors, this is
Right,
my outfit. Like everything was already done. And boy, did that take a bit of that part, that heaviness of making sure everything was proper and true
right.
off of the shoulders of the immediate family members that needed to make that decision. But we also knew that we were honoring her the way that she wanted to be honored.
That's
So
correct.
you are so right. I'm glad that you have written this book. It's going to give someone that bridge of what they need.
That's my hope.
Absolutely. Well, it is time for us to take a very short break. And we know that your book, of course, is available on Amazon and wherever books are sold. But if someone wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to do that?
www.ckbrashares.com. That's my website. And I have a blog there also.
I love it. Alrighty, everyone. Now you know where you can get a copy of the book and how to stay in contact. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark TV. Now, I love the conversation that we are having, and I think that more people need to have the space and the permission to have these types of conversations. Now, I don't want to make our viewers assume that you're going to tell it all in this conversation because it's time for my handy dandy disclaimer. If you want to know everything in the book, guess what? You gotta buy a copy. Now, with that being said, Cindy, what is one of the main nuggets of wisdom that you want to make sure a reader picks up from having read this book?
That your loved one is a person that deserves love and understanding during their time of illness. Um, that they not may not always show that or display it because they're going to be hurting. They're going to be grumpy and be difficult, and to have also have humor within that, but to give them the in the deserving integrity that they deserve. I can't think of a better word. I'm sorry. Um, that they deserve to be cared for and with dignity. That's the word I was trying to search for, is dignity. And but it's hard. I mean, I was very uh not good for that. I would get angry with my mom because she was being obstinate about something. But she was saying, I'm still your mom. And, trying to assert her control over a situation that she has very little control over anymore. And I feel bad about that. And so I guess that's what I want to tell everybody, to love your loved one, give them dignity during this time, and try to have a little humor within it.
Because it's got to be tough for them too. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that it has to be tough for them too. As hard as it is for us, we can't imagine being in that position.
Mhm.
Now, would you say that this book is also good for anyone who may be dealing with a loved one who is going through this transitional journey, irregardless of what may be happening, being that they are suffering from high blood pressure, or it could be some terminal illness that they have, not just mental illness? Would you say that regardless of what they're going through, this book is still a good read for that person?
I think so, because it just shows, the processes of that. Of course, this is in mine as the death and what comes after and during the process, but it shows you that you need to be aware of the person that you're with, give them dignity and love and respect. And also, I give a little bit of information on living wills and what it entails to take care of take care of the person's estate afterwards. So it has a little bit of everything in an illness kind of situation.
Oh, that is so incredibly helpful. And what a great segue for my next question. And that is, what do you do? How do you process your emotion and all of that after your loved one has transitioned? We know that there are those legal requirements, such as handling the estate and their affairs,
Right.
of course. But how should the person deal with what they're experiencing emotionally once their loved one has
That's a good
transitioned?
point, and I do make that in my book. Um, One of the things that I didn't realize that because I'm the oldest, I had to have a demeanor of um, strength, you know, and not breaking down and all that kind of thing. And so I didn't realize I was depressed because I had given up all the things that I liked and I was down to just sitting in front of this computer playing games and kind of, you know, thing. In fact, one day I came home and I had been a particularly hard day with my mom. She was being obstinate about something, you know, and I wasn't understanding. But anyway, I come home and I lean back in my truck and I look up to the sky and I saw how expansive, how beautiful it was. And I just felt so small. And then I realized that I had put myself into a ball to try to go through this and realized I could not contract myself any longer, that I had to open up and accept my mom's loss. And so it's very important to have talks with other people about your feelings. Also, and afterwards, to go out and do one thing a day that's good for you. And it may seem forced and uncomfortable, but the more you do it, you will take and leave that unhappiness and going into more happier times. That's what I feel.
Yeah. Oh, I love that example of that moment that you had, right? Just looking at how vast the sky is and saying, "Oh my goodness, am I making myself small? I'm
Yes.
shrinking myself for this moment," and to no longer do that. What a very visual way of explaining that. I think that's going to be an aha moment for someone. I want to kind of shift gears just a little bit and ask you about the writing process. But this was reflective of what you and your family were going through. Were there any moments that were particularly important for you to include?
Well, the aha moment, of course, but just a process of the living will, going through the estate afterwards, her funeral process, because I had some um, epiphanies, or I don't know what, not really aha moments, but where I didn't expect it,
Yeah.
you know, in the funeral process. And because I journaled every day, a lot of this came from that journaling. So I would look back on and pick out different things that I thought might be helpful that went into the book that would be helpful to other people in that
Mm-hmm.
process or whatever that happening. So
Mm-hmm.
that I guess
Mm-hmm.
that would be the best way to answer that.
And that is so helpful because I'm sitting here thinking, that particular portion, the talking with the funeral home and the director about the yes, yes, no, no, uh no one has prep time for that.
No,
That's not something on our list of let me swing by the funeral home and see what's going on there. We are dealing with making these very important decisions at one of the most emotionally heavy times of our lives. So I find that you're including that must be so helpful for someone who knows that part of the journey is right around the corner. Very mindful of you. Thank you for including that. Now, if there is one thing that you are glad that not only yourself, but your siblings, and even perhaps some readers may have shared with you reflecting on the book, what is one thing that you're glad was discovered or was revealed now that you've written the book, now that you've shared it with the world?
Hmm.
Is there a collective thought that people are so happy that you pointed something out for them or gave them permission to feel that you
Mm.
want to make sure people also pick up?
Well, the only thing I can think of is I went to Hay House's I Can Do It convention and did some signings there. And one of the ladies that came back brought her friend the next day who was in hospice. And she said that this would be very helpful. So I guess that would be the only thing because I haven't really gotten a lot of feedback from anybody else.
That is awesome. That is so amazing. I know many times on some of the platforms in which we host our books, a review is possible. Unfortunately, people don't always leave reviews for us, and so we don't know how much they've enjoyed our books. Little hint there: if you enjoyed the book, please leave a review so that the authors know.
That would
That
be
is
nice. That would be
extremely
nice.
that is extremely helpful. But oh my goodness, what an amazing review or endorsement that that lady gave to you, saying, "Here's the author," and for them to be able to have that moment with you as well. Some of these events that we host are so important, and you gave an example of why it is important to have those meet and greet moments because you really are changing lives for the positive, and I love that. Well, Cindy, thank you so much for coming on Daily Spark TV and sharing with us, and not only enlightening some, but reminding others that they are not alone in this moment and that there are resources available for them to utilize to help them on this part of their journey. Now, again, we know that the book, of course, is available on Amazon or wherever books are sold, but someone may want to reach out to you or perhaps leave a review. What is the best way to stay in contact with you?
It would be www.ckbrashares.com.
I love it. I love it. Thank you again for being a guest here on Daily Spark TV.
Well, thank you for having me, and Dr. Angela. It's been very informative and very happy to talk with you.
Thank you so much. And viewers, I hope that we have once again enlightened, inspired, and empowered you. You could have been anywhere and you chose to spend it with us today. And I thank you for doing so. As always, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone. Bye bye.